KBC, and we have a final interview of the day, and this one is on film. And with me in studio are two very good looking ladies who are here to talk to us about a feature documentary that they have made for the last 8 years. It's called Our Land, Our Freedom. Kindly help me introduce Mina Nanji and Zippy Kimondo. I asked you to kindly help me introduce them, so clap. All right, welcome so much to the show. We are pleased to have you. So if you may just give us an introduction of who exactly you are, what you do.
Yeah, hi, hello. My name is Zippy Kimondo. I'm a Kenyan filmmaker. I've made, short fictions before, but this is my first feature documentary. I run a production company called Afro Films International and wear a lot of hats also. Yes, mentoring and teaching different things.
All right, welcome, yes. Zippy.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mina Nanji. I'm Kenyan born. My parents were born here as well, but I now live in Los Angeles. I'm a filmmaker and a teacher and a curator and work generally in independent film rather than industry film. So, yes.
All right, welcome to the show, Mina. Now, if you can let's start by us just getting to understand what a feature documentary is. Probably some people might confuse a feature film and a feature documentary. Maybe what's the difference between those two?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we tag team, so.
Yeah.
Well, a documentary is based in fact. We do not write a script. It's not a fiction story. So we find real situations that we are passionate about and explore those issues. So it might be through a character, it might be an issue of, say, climate change. It could be any sort of social justice issue, I think, is what we're mostly interested in. And I guess the big difference is that it's not a written script. We just follow things as they unfold in real life.
Yeah, and it's based on facts.
Yeah, so like, in film there is fiction, non-fiction. So we are the non-fiction, as she says, like we basically have an idea of what we want to do, but we just follow. We let the story kind of lead us to make to tell the story.
All right.
Yeah.
So your story, which actually will be featured on Nairobi Film Festival, which is actually ongoing at the moment, it's called Our Land, Our Freedom. Tell me about that story. What is it all about? What are you documenting in Our Land, Our Freedom?
Yeah.
You go first.
I mean, just in brief, Our Land of Freedom is a story about, a Kenyan family looking for the remains of their father who was hung by the British in 1957. That is the Kimathi family. But the story is really about unearthing and finding out what happened during the colonial times. Stuff that we're not taught, in history books in detail. So the story really becomes the story about finding out what happened during colonization and its impacts in Kenya today, particularly on land.
Yeah, and when it comes to Our Land, Our Story, you mentioned that it took you 8 years to get to complete the documentary. Just tell us what went into, having it come to life.
It was a real process. So we began research, back in 2016. And through the research, we met the characters. We met Wanjugu. She introduced us to her family, her community. And all of that takes time to build trust with the communities, with everybody. And then what happened with us and why it took so long was we were kind of following one path with Wanjugu as she was trying to search for her father's remains. But along the way, her emphasis shifted. And as she started to listen to the elders and what they really wanted was getting some land, because their land had been stolen during colonial times.
Yeah.
So she said, okay, the search for our loved ones who went missing, that can go on. But right now, the way to help help everybody now is to at least get them some land so they can have their shambas, grow their own food, bury the people they love in their own land. And so this took a while to unfold, and as we were following it in real life, it just, you know, things just went on, and so that's why it took as long as it did. We also got interrupted by COVID, during which time it was very hard to travel and that kind of thing. And then the funding came in little chunks, and it just takes a long time to sort of, you know, catch up with where we are and what we're doing. So, but I think it had it not taken as long as it did, we wouldn't have the same film. It would have been a different film. So it, you know, I think hopefully the time justifies the story, or the story justifies the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do we have the actual characters playing in, not playing because it's actually real, it's a documentary. They're the actual ones who are telling their own story. It's the Kimathi family. So the story of it's Wamboi, no, Mukami and Wanjogo. So they are the ones telling their story of how, you know, it's mainly telling about the colonial times and how, you know, Kenyans would struggle for, you know, just to get their own land and all of that. So it's them telling their own story.
Yeah, so just even the title of the film, Our Land, Our Freedom.
Yeah.
The Mau Mau was actually, the name was, it was the Kenya Land and Freedom Army. So today, the elders kept asking us, are we free? You know, because they were fighting for the land. Did they get it? So, and I think what we've been saying with Mina, like, it was a fight for economic freedom, which was, we are fighting for land. So today they feel like we did not get the land, so then we are not free. And your question about who's telling the story, our history has always been told from a British perspective. Even our history books are being authored and written from the point of view, you know, the British came, you know, they were the good colonizers. They gave us English, they gave us Christianity, they gave us, you know, all the good things, right? But no one talks about the brutality of how bad it was, and we said that we have to tell this story from the point of people of view who are of people who actually were fighting in the forest. They've never really been heard because, as you might know or not know, they were actually banned after independence, so they could not speak. They used to tell us, if we did something wrong, please tell us, we will say sorry. And for us, our mission was to be able to, like, really put them in this, you know, shine a light on them for the first time, to be able to tell their stories so that you understand what really happened, and we now celebrate them and honor them. You know, we just celebrated Mashujaa Day. You know, are they celebrated? Like, how are they celebrated? So we really hope that our film, you know, can be used as a tool for, you know, for change, for changing our education system. For, you know, Mina, please take over.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
no,
like, we are very passionate about this.
And actually, as you also come in, you deliberately avoided or did not, I don't know if it's the right thing for me to say, but you deliberately avoided having the Westerners being part of the story. So why did you opt to just go with a Kenyan voice in this particular documentary?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It was very intentional on our part to just have Kenyans, you know, African indigenous Kenyans, because we felt, as Ipi said earlier, Kenya's history, especially of the colonial era, has always been written, described, told through history books, through films, through television, through radio. I mean, there was a whole propaganda department in the colonial regime that built up stereotypes of Africans and Kenyans that have really largely persisted. You know, even now there are very negative stereotypes. It's starting to change. But I think one way of really reclaiming Kenyan history is to really have, and we're so lucky that we still have the people who fought for independence. They're still alive. You know, this is a remarkable, they're a treasure, they're a national treasure, you know, all these people, and should be honored as such. And so Previously, they would tell their stories, but the British and others would say, oh no, these are stories, there's no evidence. Now there is evidence. There is evidence in colonial policy papers that were discovered in Britain. So we have those policies in black and white. And so all their stories are valid, but they're not being able to get them out. And I think now we decided, look, we just want to focus on them because we've heard the other side. We've heard it. We're you know, so now it's time to just start telling, you know, our stories. And I think what is really encouraging is the younger generation in Kenya. You know, at least people in media are really interested, and so more and more fiction is coming out about this era. More and more documentary is coming out, and more books. So. Sorry, long answer to your question, but we feel very, you know, passionately about this.
About it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can tell. What exactly do you want people who will come for that show, who will come to watch the documentary, get out of it? What do you want them to come out of that room or auditorium with?
I mean, for me, it's to know the truth, number one. It's to know the truth and to celebrate and honor the freedom fighters. And how do we get justice for these freedom fighters who fought and who have never got their land back? Yeah? So this is just for us to know. Let us know. Once we know, we should do something about it. So for me, like, this is kind of a call for action and a call to know, right? Because, I mean, personally, I've grown so much from making this film. I didn't know half of the things. So I want all other Kenyans to be able to really understand. And putting it in a nice way, you know, with a relationship of a mother and daughter, in a nice way. You know, it's it might be very hard for people to read this big history book that is like 1,000 pages, but it's 90 minutes of just learning and relearning.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, I'll ask you to hold that thought. We take a break, and then when you come back, you can continue with the conversation. We're taking a break. You were just about to tell me what you want people to get out of, or to get to learn from this particular documentary.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, I hope that people can start thinking about their inheritance in a new way. You know, I hope that the film kind of starts, you know, some discussions and conversations about, you know, where do we come from? Where do we, you know, what really happened during that time? And also to break down these stereotypes that have been constructed so carefully, and to sort of just rethink, you know, rethink these issues in a different way. Because I think there's a lot, the Kenya's history is so rich, and we just need to expose it and tell it the way that Kenyans should tell it, you know, or can tell it. And then people with a broader, you know, once they get a broader sort of information about what really happened, then they can make up their own minds about what, you know, where they want to go, what they want to do. But I do believe that you can't really move forward without looking back. It's like knowing the true past and then forging a way ahead. And there's so much to learn from what happened before, and that still has impact today.
Yeah.
You know,
actually, in that same breath, how does the colonial legacy still impact Kenya today?
I think it impacts in many ways. The biggest thing is land ownership, of course. So, you know, people who had ancestral land that was just taken from them, they were never compensated for it, right? So once you take away people's ability or the space to grow their own food, then they have to become workers. And then they became laborers, and they were paid very badly. So the whole issue of poverty really starts during the colonial period, you know, in a deep way. And that's entrenched even now. So that carries on. It carries on in economic policies, you know, unfair trade, unfair policies with Britain and Europe and the West, where they get favorable, you know, they get favorable contracts, or the trade is favorable to the West. I mean, Kenya has the best tea. You live in Kenya, you drink the worst tea. What is that about? You know, same with coffee, same with goods, cotton, you know, whatever, right? And then also in the mind, you know, I think we're still quite internally colonized, and we have to break free of that. I think it's happening, I do, but I think there is this aspiration to be like the West still. So, you know, we have to realize that no, that's not the model. We are our own model, and we have our own, you know, standards and principles, and, you know, all of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally, I've just been nodding like really hard, because like I really agree with what you said. But also like what we really want to do, we filmed for 8 years. We've documented history, stories that have never been told, which are not in our documentary. So we've talked to, you know, so many elders. This is history that, you know, will be lost. So I mean, our intention is to, you know, start creating our own archive, because we had the archive that was British. Now we had to go back to the British and buy our own, you know, so we have to start kind of creating our own archive, and, you know, and so that the next generation have access to what really happened. Yeah.
What was the process like for the two of you, you know, on this particular journey that you started 8 years ago? Just how was that process like? I can begin with you, then she can jump in, because it's a tag team here. I've noticed it's a tag team. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in film school.
Yeah.
I'd gone to study film, and I had, you know, I was making stories. It's, you know, when you just haven't found your voice, you just make fun stories, right? But then I started realizing there was a lot of things that, you know, had happened here that had not been done. So I wanted to actually adopt Ngugi wa Thiong'o's book, Weep Not Child, and I actually started writing that fiction film. But I couldn't find material. I couldn't find like a lot of the facts to improve on my fiction film. And then I got an email from Mina, who had been, you know, also researching quite a lot about the film. Do you want to take over?
No.
Okay, yeah. So I got an email and said, you know, let's, you know, I want us, we had Mukami Kimathi's interview.
Yeah.
You know, she says, I met Wanjogo, let's go to this interview. That was in 2015, December, actually. I remember very well. So we met, and the next day, we all went to Mukami Kimathi's house, and we started doing the interview. And that day, everyone was crying, from Mukami to Wanjogo to ourselves to the cameraman, like, and then Mukami was so passionate. I think she had told the stories, but not in that depth. And she would cry, and then she says, "I'm really tired. I need to take a nap for 1 hour and wake up." And then after that, we knew that we had to tell the story, and we started. So we started going to every corner to discover this, because I think like we felt that we did have a responsibility to tell this to Kenya and the world. And you know, just to we premiered this film in November in Amsterdam at IDFA, at a really big international film festival, and for the whole year we've been traveling across the world showing the film, and touches every person from every part of the world. It's like, oh my gosh, we never knew this. We never knew this. And it's so amazing for us to come back home now to show the film this Saturday.
Yeah.
And yeah, very excited to also bring the elders to celebrate with them, to start having these deep conversations about who we are, where we come from, and where do we go. We have to know that. Yes.
Mina, from your end, just what was that process like for you? She's explained to us how it came to be, how you came to, you know, get to start, you know, making this documentary. But just how was that like for you? I'm trying to get into your mind as you're doing all this. You know, it's a lot of emotional imbalances. Let me call it imbalance. Like, there's a lot happening, you know. So just how was that like for you?
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. It was such an adventure, actually. I mean, we went in, it was Zippy and I, we went in thinking that we would, it would take a year or two max. We were like, oh no, we'll get this done, you know. But as you get deeper and deeper in the process, you meet more and more people. You know, it was clear that, oh my God, this needs a lot of research, a lot of patience, a lot of commitment. During the shoots, we would shoot about 2 or 3 times a year for a month each. And Zippy was here. I was in LA, but I would come for the shoots. So it was very, you know, it was kind of run and gun. We would just go for it and run and get the interviews we could and do, you know, so it was always like, I think we both seemed really breathless. You know, we're always catching up. And then we'd have a period where we could look at the footage and start to edit a little bit. And it was tough. I mean, you hear these stories and they're devastating. And what do? You know, you feel so helpless, like, you know, getting the story out is one thing, but that takes years. And what can you do right then? So it's really wrenching, actually. And there were times when I think both of us just were like, how are we going to get through this? And, you know, for us, what with the people who we interviewed, how do they get through life? So that, I think, you know, responsibility, or that sort of feeling like, you know, the people we interviewed entrusted us with their stories. And I think that's what really kept me going, kept us going, because we had to, you know, they trusted us. We had to, you know, sort of perform for them, you know. And so it was a tough, I'm not going to say it was smooth sailing. It was very tough at various times. But I think we both also, what kept us together was that we really believe in the project, and we really believed in the people that we interviewed and met. Many of them did not make it into the final film because a film is a film, but we will have those interviews on our website hopefully within the year, so that it can be accessed by people doing research on this stuff and people who just want to see them. So yeah, it was a learning process, an adventure, and yeah.
Okay. So, all right, as we come to a close of this conversation, maybe you can let people know where exactly they can come to watch the documentary, the feature documentary. It's at the Nairobi Film Festival. When are you showcasing? Where is it happening? Yeah.
So it's premiering this Saturday, the 26th of October, at 7:30 p.m. At the Prestige Plaza Cinemas. So please, you can get your tickets from Nairobi Film Fest, nbofilmfest.com, or I think. And it's also going to be at, it'll be at,
Kaloleni. It will be at Kaloleni, the library, and that is a free screening actually. And then
on Sunday afternoon at 3.
And then, you know, we'll have a theatrical run sometime in November, so people can watch out and look. We have a website, Our Land, Our Freedom, which you can also find information.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to the show, and thank you very much for just telling these stories that need to be told, the untold stories that we really need to get to know about and get to learn about, more about our history. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has been tuned in on the show. This is Entertainment Thursday right here on Good Morning Kenya. The documentary that they were talking about is called Our Land, Our Freedom. So make a point of showing up at the Nairobi Festival, Nairobi Film Festival to be specific, and you can be able to watch it as they get to premiere it. This is where I say goodbye. Thank you to each and every one of you, and I will leave you in the able hands of our DJ, that is Unique the DJ. Goodbye. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.